What your job is as a parent is to help your child learn from between 2 years old and say 4 years old how to act in the world so that when people encounter them, people smile and are happy they're around.
Hey, it's Hebyb here. Good to have you join me for the second part of Chapter 5 in the book 12 Rules for Life. People who know Jordan Peterson are familiar with his idea that he aims to teach people about taking responsibility. In this chapter, he talks about the responsibility parents should take in disciplining their children. He points out that some parents find it challenging to discipline and set rules for their kids because they want to be their friends rather than their parents. According to him, this isn't a good approach. A child can have many friends, but they only have 2 parents, and parents have a unique role. Friends have limited authority to correct behavior, but parents serve as the ultimate decision makers. They teach their children how to behave so that others can interact with them effectively and positively. He emphasizes that parents have a duty to act as guides for their kids in the real world. Their primary duty is to help their children become socially desirable, which in turn provides them with opportunities, self-esteem, and security. He raises this concern by asking this question in the book. You love your kids after all. If their actions make you dislike them, think what an effect they will have on other people who care much less about them than you. Take a listen to this part of his lecture.
If you're my son, then I should impose the highest standards of behavior on you. And I should always be judging what you're doing. I should be judging it with the aim of making the best in you come forward. But getting that balance exactly right is very difficult. No, I'm going to make you strong so any number of things can happen to you, and when you need some care, I'll be there, but otherwise, like out into the world with you. That's the right attitude. And for the father, it's like, get your bloody act together, but I'm on your side. It's not because I want to destroy you or demean you or push you down in the dominance hierarchy, but because I want the best in you to emerge. And so you need standards. It's like, what are you doing wasting your life? There's way more than that to you. Get your act together and bring it out. And that's a message that people really want to hear if they have any sense at all, and generally they do want to hear it.
In this chapter, he offers a summary of principles for parents. I've tried to locate some of his speeches and lectures that relate to these principles, so let's dive right in.
Bad rules drive out respect for good rules. And so you have to have some rules. But maybe you don't want to have too many. And you can understand that because, like, how many rules do you want to enforce? You want to spend all your time running around enforcing rules? And the answer to that should be no, because you have a life. And then you have to figure out what the important rules are. And so that's the first thing, and you have to talk that over with your wife or your husband. It's like, well, one rule we had in our house was that you didn't get to be mean to your sibling. Now, you could be funny, you could play, you could tease even, although you had to keep the teasing on the funny side of funny and not the mean side, and the person you were teasing had a vote on that. How much force is it necessary to exert to enforce a rule? And the answer is, depends on the kid. My daughter, when she was misbehaving, she was pretty agreeable. And, if she was misbehaving, I could basically just look at her and then she'd quit, But my son, it was like, that was just nothing. You're looking at me? It's like, no, that's just not going to go anywhere, man. And so then I'd tell him to stop, and that really wasn't having much of an effect either. He'd just sort of maybe laugh or run away or whatever. I mean, he was a tough little rat. And, what I would do with him is he would be doing something and I'd interfere and he'd get upset and, angry. And so then I'd get him to sit on the steps, and I told him, and this is when he was about 2, I said, look, you're going to sit on the steps, that's timeout. You're going to sit on the steps until you've got control of yourself and you can come back and play the family game again. I basically said, be a civilized human being and then you're welcome again. I'd put him on the steps and he'd be like, just like enraged and trying to get himself together, and I'd wait a few, I got a strict rule, which was, as soon as you're done,
you're welcome again. So it's completely under your control. You get yourself calmed down, you come and talk to me again. If you're calm enough so I like you, then you're welcome back in the family. No grudge, nothing.
If your child is doing something that makes you dislike them, that you have to figure out how to stop them from doing that and teach them how to do it properly. And you have to talk to your wife to make sure that you're not being too much of a monster, you know, and the same with her. But that discipline is partly what enables you to continue to like your child while you love them. And you say, well, how do you know those are the right rules? And the answer is, that's bloody tricky, man. And that's partly why it's a good idea to be married, because if the two of you can agree on a rule, then there's some reasonable likelihood that it's an okay rule, you know, because what's the probability that you're both crazy in exactly the same way?
And so it's harder than you think. Like, people think they like their kids. It's like, don't be thinking that. They're hard to like. They're little monsters, and they're very, very pushy and provocative. And so lots of parents do not like their children, and they do terrible things to them their whole life. So it's no joke, and it's very common. And you know, that was Freud's observation, fundamental observation, that a lot of psychopathology is rooted in the family, and you can be sure of that. You know, and when you hear about some mother who's done something terrible to her child, which happens reasonably frequently, you know perfectly well that she has a very terrible capacity to discipline. The child's just provoked her and provoked her and provoked her and provoked her and provoked her, and it just happens to be a day where her new boyfriend left and she's quite hungover and she got fired, and it's like, that's the wrong day to provoke her. And then she does something that is not good, and you read about it and you think, well, how could that happen? How could anyone do that? Well, that's how they do it. And kids are very provocative, just like little chimps.
Thanks, my friends, for tuning in. Please leave your comments and subscribe to my channel. Also, make sure to watch the complete interviews and lectures I've included in this video. All the links can be found in the description. Take care, my friends.